Okay, today I am going to be showing you guys how to use the heat press. This is probably the newest piece of equipment that we've got into the department, and probably the most expensive piece of equipment as well. So please, if you're unsure about how to use it, always ask myself or Mrs. Porter. This heat press operates as a swing mechanism. If you're nearby, you can actually feel the heat coming off it. It gets up to, we're going to be working probably about 300 degrees, so it's very hot, and you have to be extremely careful with it. So when you're using it, can I ask you please to make sure your hair's tied out of the way and all the rest of it. Sleeves up, jewellery off, that jazz, so that nothing gets caught in it. Another crucial point to remember with this as well is because it's swinging round, you have to make sure that there's nothing in its way. Accidents do happen, so please be extremely careful about the area around about. So, with the heat press, it's basically allowing us to bind materials together that otherwise wouldn't really happen, and it would allow you then to use these materials to mould and sculpt, whether it be into headwear, jewellery, fabric for dressmaking, for product design as well. It's really a useful piece of equipment that we've got, and it's really a case of you experimenting with it. So one of the first things I'm going to show you here is I've got some samples ready to go, and I've just used bubble wrap, so it's a plastic that I'm using, and obviously you put it under that heat, it's going to melt, and because it's melting it's going to bind everything in between it, so it's like a little sandwich that I've made. Another thing that you could use instead of the bubble wrap is bonding web, which we don't have any of, so that's why I'm using the plastic. But the Bonder web is much more appropriate if you want to use fabrics rather than the plastics and the paper. Okay, so in here I've got bubble wrap, I've got a sheet of tissue paper just to give me a bit of colour into my sample, and then I've got some of this wire kind of plastic mesh. You might see some of this appearing in packaging, as that sort of thing as well. Anything that you find, can you please start to bring in, okay? So I'm making my little sandwich, and then what I do is I swing the heat press out, okay? So you've got these plates here that will get extremely hot. These silicone sheets act as a protector from the heat, so nothing is going to get stuck directly onto the plastic. Always make sure that you have a silicone sheet on the base, then your little sample on top, and then another silicone sheet on top of that as well. Okay? Always make sure that's in place. So this is a swing mechanism, swing it round, and then what I'm going to do is release the handle and press it down and hold it for about 20 seconds. Depending on what materials you're bonding or equipment that you're using, you might need to change the time of that, so it's a bit of trial and error to start with. But obviously if you were using any of these fabrics into a big piece, you would have it all timed and you'd be able to do it as appropriate. Okay, so I'm just going to push this down and hold it for about 20 seconds. Okay, so release the handle, swing it round, and it will be hot. So if you want to wait a few minutes before you handle it, that's fine. But what you'll find here is I'll pull it away. I'll just waft it about until it cools slightly. And once it's cool, I'll be able to peel that off the silicone sheet. So as you can see here, there's very little trace of the plastic bubble wrap, which is good, because it's not really a fabric that you want on show for some of your designs. Might be. And then what you can do is start to peel this away once it's cooled. Okay, now that is obviously thin enough that you could still run that through the sewing machine, which is the next stage perhaps that you'd want to take your design into. Okay, so you can pass that about if you like. I'll just run another little sample in so you can have a wee look at it. So any fabrics that you see in the department that you think, I might try that, that's fine, but please just double check with one of the art teachers to make sure that you can use it for the heat press. I'll put 2 samples in here. This is the larger bubble wrap, which tends to pop under the heat press. Okay, so swing it round, drop the handle,